Darren, looking at their results there, they've lost 4 of their last 6. Alex Scott recently sat down with Mikel Arteta to kind of ask how he thought things were going, where he thought Arsenal were at, and he talked a lot about them not being where they should be at the moment and there being a real disconnect. Do you feel that changing, or do you think there's still quite a lot of work to do when we look at those fixture results particularly?
I think there's still a lot of work to do, but I do slowly but surely think they're going in the right direction. I mean, you look at the performance against United, it was very, very good. Played really, really well. But that performance against Aston Villa just wasn't good enough. And we saw some of the old Arsenal creeping back in defensively, not good enough, too many gaps. Aubameyang, for whatever reason, seems to have gone off the boil. They're not being as prolific as they have been. So for me, going forward, I still think they're okay, but defensively it was a little bit suspect. So I like Arteta, and I think the relationship between the fans and the club is starting to come back. I think he's kind of made it be a little bit more of a feel-good factor down there at Arsenal, but I still think from where Arsenal were to where they were trying to get to, I still think they're miles away from everybody else.
Righty sat in that very spot a few weeks ago when I was on the programme as well and talked a lot about creatively, they're just not creating enough. He's maybe changed the way they've played a little bit, but why do you think they are struggling for goals? Because as Darren alluded to then, it's been the problems at the other end of the pitch in previous years that we've talked about.
Yeah, I think the slow build-up at times is a very good weapon to have, and we saw some great goals they scored from Ben Leno, pretty much everybody touching the ball and then finishing with Aubameyang or someone else. The problem is slow build-up at times, it takes you far too long to get into the other box, and I think they lose the ball in between. We've seen Aubameyang not touching the ball much in the opposition area, in the opposition box. Same with Lacazette. Whoever plays on the right-hand side doesn't bring, whether it's Pepe or William, doesn't really bring the creativity that they should. And Partey, I think, is still finding his feet into this team. So it's a work in progress, as Arteta always says. But it's just a bit harder maybe than he thought he would be this season.
Yeah, he kind of alluded to that in that interview, didn't he? Where do you think, he obviously knew it was a big job when he was taking over, but do you think as time's going on, he's realising just what a big job it is?
I think so, and there's no shame to losing away at City, away at Liverpool, and even at home to Leicester, although they were so much better, Arsenal, in the first half compared to Leicester. They could have been 2-0 up at half-time and the game was over. Aston Villa is the bad one, and I think he made mistakes, and Nenny and Partey should not have started that game together. It works at United, not at home against a team like Aston Villa, the way they play. However, I think for him and the importance that he puts on practicing and training and putting stuff together at training, there's no time for training this season. There's no pre-season and there's no time for training. They play every 3 days, and I think he's really struggled with that.
We said about it being a difficult season to kind of defend your Premier League title. It's probably quite a difficult year for Mikel Arteta to be trying to rebuild a club, as it seems like he's doing this year.
Yeah, look, we know it's a tough job that he's taken, and certainly so early in a young managerial career. So I think he would have had a bit of an eye-opener, because obviously it's a giant club, and we're certainly with us growing up, you're so used to them being in the top 4, it's almost like a given. Yeah. And obviously the fans still want that and expect that. So look, he's got but you know that sort of fire is going to come your way when you take the seat, and he knows it's going to be tough. But I think I like the way he goes about his business. He's trying to get his point across, but not sort of overnight. I think he's dealt with certain situations in the club very well. With Ozil and Guendouzi, he doesn't suffer any falls. So I think he's certainly going to get the players' respect, and you feel for him because he needs the time, but. The fans don't want him to have that much time. They want to see success now. But at the moment, I feel like there's still, again, 2 steps forward, 1 step back.
They are only 3 points off Chelsea in 5th. It's very, very tight at the top or in the middle of the table as it stands at the moment. So do you think that he's actually doing a very good job considering all of this stuff that we're talking about?
Yeah. Listen, when you go about the points, you're right there. What you said, that they're only a couple of points behind Chelsea, 3 points behind Chelsea, as you said there. But I look at the way Chelsea are going. You can see there's the kind of identity, and that Chelsea are going forward. You're starting to see the best of Werner. You're starting to Ziyech has come in and been superb. Arsenal at the minute, as Jono was saying there, is 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Like they have the result against Man United, and everyone goes, "Oh, Arteta's a genius. He's coaching. Look what he's done to kind of nullify United." And then they have that woeful performance against Aston Villa. And I think that's embedded in Arsenal the last couple of seasons, where they can have these one-off performances where you go, yeah, maybe this is the time, this is the tide's turning and such, and Arsenal is going to start to go forward. But then they put in the performances like that, and you go, oh, that's Arsenal again. And I think somehow they need to find a bit of consistency. That's the big thing, is that if they can go 2, 3, 4 games going forward, winning games, and people going, okay, maybe this is their time, but one game they play really well, one game they play badly. You're never going to be able to make enough ground, whereas Chelsea and teams above them are making several strides going forward.
One word you used there, Darren, that was quite interesting was identity. Have we seen the identity of Mikel Arteta's Arsenal yet?
I think so, yeah. I think we saw in the FA Cup, for example, both in the semi-final and the final, and you saw at times in the league as well. The problem is it's not an easy identity to put together. No. You know, he asks a lot to the players, and it's a lot of work to put together on the training pitch. Where do you position yourself? How you drop if you're Xhaka, for example, and where does the wing back goes? And then the wing back goes inside, and it's very much like Pep Guardiola in many respects. This is the school he's been to as a manager, so it's far more complicated, I think, than people understand it is. And I think that takes a lot of time to get to the players for your message to come across. I don't think it's easy, but you can already see the way they're trying to play.
One of the problems that he has got to solve at the moment is getting Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang back to his best. We were talking about his contract situation for so long, Glenn, but since he signed that, it hasn't really been working for him. What's changed and why is he not being so prolific?
It's hard to put your finger on it. Obviously, being an outsider, I'd say the main thing is the work rate. You know, Benny would be the first to tell you that strikers have got to work so hard to get touches on the ball in the box. You know, that's the one place where the defenders don't want the strikers having any sort of freedom or any more than one touch if possible. So I think he's just got to sort of up the workload because, look, he's still a threat. You know, he's a fantastic striker, but you don't lose your class overnight or anything like that. So the main thing I'd look at is work rate, just trying to get them firing again. Because, look, the top players, and if top players work hard, they're very hard to stop.
Why have those numbers changed that we're seeing here so much, Darren? Is that just because he's maybe changed position a little bit? That is, of course, from the restart to now.
Yeah, you'd have to say potentially. I mean, I think you look at the stats and the attempts on goal as well. Maybe the slow build-up, as Julian was saying, there's played its part. But for me, the biggest thing, as Jono was saying, there's work rate. I think with Aubameyang, you look at him before he signed the contract, the FA Cup semi-final, FA Cup final, he's literally up and down. There's times he's making tackles as a fullback and sprinting 6 yards up the other end to try and get on the end of a finish. So he's got that kind of, he had that hunger. That desire to go on and not only go on and score goals, but to really work hard for the team. And everyone was singing his praises. But then this season, it's like, the first game of the season, Fulham, superb, completely destroyed Fulham. But then after that, he signed the new contract. That he's kind of allowed his standards to slip a little bit. And you don't want to say it's because he signed the new contract, but some people will say that there's no coincidence that his work rate's dropped, the goals have dried up, and that he's not nowhere near as effective as he was before he signed the contract.
Do you think what Darren's saying there is fair? We're seeing here some of his frustrations this season, some of the chances that he hasn't been able to convert. Darren's mentioned work rate. Is that something you've noticed change, or is there something else?
I think he thought far too much about the goal drought, and we saw that chance before that at United, the one that Lacazette put on him. I think this one is one last season he would have scored, and this time he maybe thinking too much about having to score and always scoring and things like that. Also, he used to come inside far more last season. He starts on the left-hand side, we know that, but he used to come inside far more with the space that Lacazette was leaving by dropping a bit deeper. It's not so much the case this season, and maybe the opposition team have worked them out as well, and how to block Aubameyang from him starting on the left-hand side and coming inside, which he naturally does. So there's a lot of work to be done again there, but they have to be able to create more for him. It's incredible that he's had hardly no touches in the box all season.
I think as well, when you're a striker like Aubameyang, who wants to play centre-forward, that's where he sees himself playing. When you're being asked to play in a position that he's maybe not wanting to play, but he's still scoring goals, you can kind of live with it. I mean, I've had times in my career where I'm scoring goals, but having to play from the left. But because I'm scoring goals from that area, it's not really a concern. But I think when the goals dry out from that position, and then the centre-forward who's playing there, whether it be Lacazette, and he's not scoring, but you're still not getting the opportunities to go and play in your natural position, you can become frustrated. And I think that's where we've seen a little bit of Aubameyang's game, where he's thinking, well, hold on a second there, you're not getting the best out of me out of here. I am our best player. Play me up front in my natural position, and hopefully I'll start scoring goals again. So I think there is a little bit of frustration on his part as well.
Are Leeds the perfect opponent for Arsenal to face next, to get themselves back on a winning run and maybe even get Aubameyang back scoring?
Well, it depends what Leeds turn up. Look, you know, they've been, of course, they're open at the back and they've got their problems, and Arsenal will clearly be favourites for the game. But we know Leeds can score. They haven't been of late, but we know they certainly know where the goal is and they can play some good football. But yeah, I think, to be fair, I think they will be a good opponent because they do play football. Whereas Arsenal, of course, they're a fantastic footballing side, but sometimes they don't quite like to roll their sleeves up a little bit. But so yeah, so to play against a footballing side, there's not many teams that beat Arsenal playing football. So that will play into their hands. And of course, they'll be, you know, want to go out and put their stamp on the game very early, and I'm sure they will get a result.
Will Mikel Arteta be rubbing his hands playing a team that have conceded 8 goals in their last 2 league games?
not rubbing his hands because he knows they can score and they will score goals all the time, pretty much. But I agree with Jono, though. It's easier for Arsenal and for Arteta to play against a team that will play a lot and be expensive and leave space everywhere, and you can run. And with Aston Villa, for example, were really cagey and then play so well on the counter, and they've got great players like Grealish and Watkins, so that suited them. But I think the way Leeds have been playing so far will suit Arsenal for sure.
What do we make of Leeds and where they are at the moment, Darren? Because we know whatever happens, it's going to be an entertaining game watching them.
It will be, yeah. I mean, you're right. Going forward, they was going to score. And I think Bielsa will be happy kind of where they are. I mean, I don't think they're going to go down. There's nowhere to plan I can see Leeds United going down. But they've got to do something defensively because you can't keep leaking goals after goals after goals. So I've enjoyed watching them. But I think at some stage they can't keep playing the way they are because the more they keep conceding goals and keep getting opened up, they're going to keep losing points. So for me, he's got to find a balance of that attacking way, the way they play, but then defensively being a bit more astute. But listen, Calvin Phillips is back, so I think he's close to being back. That will help. How
do you see this one going then, Glenn? Because we talk about him so much, being the master tactician. He's had a couple of weeks during the international break to work out how he can beat Arsenal. And incidentally, they will actually go above Arsenal if they do beat them.
No, I think Arsenal will get the win. I think the way Leeds do play will play into their hands. And I think what's caught Leeds out so far is some of the football that you could play in the Championship, you can't get away with in the Premier League. And I think they're going to have to show Arsenal a lot of respect, in a sense, be a bit more cagey and sort of not so free-flowing. But I don't know if they know how to do that. And like you say, it's fun to watch when you're not associated with Leeds. If you're a Leeds fan, you're
as a neutral, it's brilliant, isn't it?
Yeah, of course, it's great to watch. You know there's going to be goals. When you don't care about the result, it's all right.
Jules, which way do you see this one going then? Because I think this is really fascinating because, as we've seen with Leeds, they can beat anyone, but equally they can ship loads of goals to anyone as well.
Yeah, and I expect that game to be exactly like this. You could see easily a 3-2, 4-3, 3-3, 2-2, something like this, because it's been too easy for opposition to get into Leeds' last 30 yards. And if you concede so many chances, it might be okay in the Championship, not so much in the Premier League, because you're going to get punished.
And finally, from you, Darren, how do you see this one panning out? Please tell me you're going to say goals.
I say 4-2 Arsenal. Leeds over-expansive.
4-2 Arsenal. Leeds are going to concede
Aubameyang hat-trick.
Brilliant. Well, that is the way we will leave it, I think, because that's what we like to hear. There's going to be plenty of goals in the Premier League. Well, it has been great to be with you today. Myself and Darren have enjoyed keeping the sofa warm. Kelly and Ian will be back next week. My thanks also to Jules and Glenn. Thanks for watching. See you soon. Bye-bye.